Hey there, Andy Boy here. Just thought today I'd actually talk about some movies that I have just recently seen. That one as recently as last night, and that one yesterday afternoon. But I saw these ones, within the last week or so, and gonna admit I didn't see the whole thing with Barbarella, but I thought, I'd give you a few thoughts on what I think about said movies. Now, all of them are kind of movies that are in my periphery. They're not stuff that I'm really into. I was never really a huge James Bond fan, or definitely not G.I. Joe. I was a little too old for the whole toy comic phenomenon. I mean, I know about it, but I'm not a huge fan. So it's on the periphery. Barbarella is a sci-fi movie I've always seen around. And this came out of nowhere. And I just thought it was super cool. This isn't in the periphery, really. This is targeted right at me. Unfortunately, I wasn't the right age when it came out, and I'm definitely not the right age for it right now. But a T-Rex with a suit of armor on, like, that's cool as shit, dude. Dr. No. How about more like Dr. No Thanks? Don't get me wrong, it's not that I didn't enjoy this movie. I did, but there's a lot of problems with this, mostly due to its age. Anyway, Dr. No, Ian Fleming's Dr. No, 007, James Bond, the very first James Bond movie ever made in 1962. There's a shot of James Bond and the lovely Ursula Andress. I'm assuming fleeing from the minions of Dr. No. It's pretty dated. The adventure itself, it's a little, it's a lot slower paced than you would find in today's Bond movies. A lot slower paced. But that's just how movies were back then. Sean Connery, of course, plays Bond in this movie. And, I'm just going to come right out and say it. It's pretty sexist, this entire movie. And in some cases, borderline racist. But again, this is 1962. This movie, a super high-tech spy movie, made in 1962. Okay, that happened before the moon landing and most of our, space exploration and that sort of thing. So it's dated in that way, but mostly because of the sexism, if you know what I mean. Female characters in this movie don't really get too much of a say in what happens in the movie at all. It's I think it objectifies women quite a bit. It's also, James Bond sleeps with at least 4 women in this movie, several of whom are his enemies and stuff. But that was the appeal of the movies back in the days. He was super suave British spy. The villain is interesting in this movie. Your super villain, the very first super villain that you see in the James Bond series. It's not bad. Of course, he has the hidden lair that blows up in the end, like they always do. Just like Hank Scorpio, I suppose. Dr. No? Well, more like Dr. No, but Barbarella, Queen of the Galaxy. Jane Fonda in Barbarella, Queen of the Galaxy. Now, this differs from the theatrical release, which was simply called Barbarella. This is a sort of cleaned up version. A little bit, they scaled back a little bit on the nudity and semi-nudity and some of the racier bits. I gotta admit, I watched most of this movie. It's not really my bag. Jane Fonda is gorgeous in this movie. Don't get me wrong. And she does a really good job. Unfortunately, her dialogue is really dumb. She's kind of was, I guess, encouraged to play a more docile, innocent sort of character. This movie was made at a time when women's rights and freedoms, and especially sexual freedoms and roles in society, were all being put under the microscope. And now this movie is made in the guise that, under the assumption that, hey, we're like, she's free with her body, she can, go and do whatever she wants. She's Barbarella, she's one of the most powerful women in the galaxy, and she's like a super spy, I guess. But unfortunately, it comes across as the opposite. It seems pretty exploitative. It's funny. You're not supposed to take it too seriously. There's a lot of nudity and semi-nudity in this. A lot of racy scenes. Still kind of sexist. But I mean, hey, maybe this movie did a lot to further the cause. I kind of doubt it. I think if anything, it probably set it back the other way. But 1968. Still, if you like cheesy, campy movies with questionable special effects, it's not that bad. It's fun. It's a cool movie. I got a couple of laughs out of this. Yeah, and you know what? Jane Fonda made a hell of a career for herself. She's a very accomplished woman. And this is one of her first starring roles, so good job, Jane, And I don't think it's anything. I hear that she's kind of ashamed of this movie. I don't think she should be. I mean, obviously, even with the terrible script that she's given and the ridiculous, sort of exploitation movie that she's in, the racy outfits and things like that. Despite all that, it's still, she's a great actress, and you can tell that from her performance in this movie. Then you got your Dino Riders. Oh, you can't really read it. Dino Riders. I don't really remember this from when I was a kid. As a matter of fact, I think I was older by the time this actually came out. Yeah, 1987. I would have been 16 in 1987. So probably wouldn't have been too cool to sit around on Saturday mornings and watch this cartoon. I think, as a matter of fact, this was a failed toy line. But I mean, it shows you right on the back here. Because of course, during the 80s, if you had a toy you wanted to sell to kids, you had to make a cartoon to go with it, and vice versa. If you wanted to make a cartoon, you had to have toys that the kids could play with at home to recreate the adventures, right? And how cool is that? I mean, I didn't even know this existed when I was 16 years old. And again, it probably wouldn't have been too cool if I actually watched it or bought toys from this. But, this just came out 10 years too late for me. If this came out when I was 6 or 7, I would have lost my mind. And that's amazing. A T-Rex with battle armor on, shooting lasers. It's got a big claw on the front to, I guess, well, this is what I'm seeing here. It's got a big claw on front, I guess, to make up for these tiny little arms that he's got. He's even got armor on his legs. Yeah, it's shooting cannons and lasers and probably missiles and stuff. And being ridden by something or other. Some kind of alien. I think the T-Rex belongs to the bad guys. Okay, so the deal with this, I actually watched this. And there were so many commercials and cross promotions for Irwin Toys. Anyway, so the story of Dino Riders is there are some guys from the future being chased by evil guys from the future. They go back in time and land on, 65 million BC on Earth. During the age of the dinosaurs, the good guys make friends with them and use mental powers and stuff to, as I said, make friends with them and get them to do what they want and fight with them and for them. and the evil guys capture the dinosaurs and put I think it's described here, the horrible brain boxes that they put on the dinosaurs to control them. Personally, I don't really see that much of a difference. I guess it's like the good guys, like, I mean, because they're good, right? They don't exploit animals. I suppose they're gonna like try and train them and be their friends, and they're gonna be the Dino Whisperers. But they're still putting the dinosaurs in the line of fire and putting them in combat situations, so they're training like fighting dogs, you know? I don't see that as much different than putting a artificial, like, cybernetic control on their brain and animating them that way. I honestly don't see too much difference. Well, okay, yeah, there's a lot of difference, but in the end, it achieves the same result, right? But, yeah, it's only like 22 minutes long or something like that. It's one episode. I think this is all they ever made. I'm not sure. If you go to Toy Galaxy, the YouTube channel, which I'll post a link in the description below. If you go to Toy Galaxy, I believe he does a retrospective on Dino Riders, and you can learn a lot more about it. It was really interesting, actually, and I actually picked it up for, I don't know, 50 cents or something like that in a thrift store just because it looked cool. And then I happened to see that video, and I was like, wow, there's actually a lot of history behind this. And anyway, it's a really interesting article, and it's a cheap way to get me to link you to something cooler than what you're watching right now. Alright, anyway, Dino Riders! This one I just watched last night. G.I. Joe, the movie. First off, I'm going to say this was better than most of the cartoons that I watched in a lot of ways. But the one thing that sucked about it is, I mean, I was never really that big of a G.I. Joe fan, but the one character that I really liked isn't even on the cover. And I'm pretty sure he's not even in the movie. Or if he is, he's in like big montage shot or something like that, or a big battle scene just over in the corner doing something. Snake Eyes. Where the hell is Snake Eyes in this movie? And the ninja, Storm Shadow, he's not in it either. But we do get like a female ninja in this. I don't think she even gets a picture though. The good ninja. Yeah, well, I mean, what would G.I. Joe be without ninjas, right? Anyway, this is really dumb. Don Johnson does the voice for Lieutenant Falcon, who is, I believe, Duke's half-brother. See, if you know G.I. Joe stuff, then you know what I'm talking about, but I really don't know what I'm talking about. I'm just going off what I've gathered. Sergeant Slaughter's in it, too. And the actual Sergeant Slaughter. Let's see, Sergeant Slaughter, Lieutenant Falcon, Don Johnson, Sergeant Slaughter, the real Sergeant Slaughter, the wrestler Sergeant Slaughter. How come it looks like the Goonies, though? You know, where they're all hanging on the rope? Like, this guy's way in the back. I don't even know who that guy is. I don't know, man, but he is fighting mad. Oh, he's got a dog. If I remember correctly from the movie, there's a... Don't even know what his job was or what his nickname or his code name was. But I believe he's an Hispanic guy. And he's like the comic relief. And he's actually pretty funny. One of the funnier, better parts of this movie. Actually, it's not bad. I was entertained. Like, there's some crazy-ass stuff that happens in G.I. Joe, the movie. Yeah, it's pretty out there. Like, you know, all the different Cobra agents and their special abilities, and then they teamed up with, you know, semi-mystical alien bad guys that somehow are responsible for forming Cobra or something like that, and it's pretty nuts. But it's good, you know, if you like the action and stuff, and the dialogue's actually not bad. It's pretty contrived and pretty cheesy. It's pretty pro-USA. Which is, you know, hey, that's what they were going for, and they did it, and it's a fun movie. I'm not gonna lie, but it's so stupid. It's just like the one thing though is the opening montage. It's like a battle scene at the very opening scene of this movie, and well, here's the inside of it. There's the tape. It's got military green case here. Anyway, the opening scene of this movie is like a huge battle scene, and it's meanwhile they're singing about Cobra at the very first part of the song. In the music that they play, they're singing about Cobra and how evil they are, and they're dark and bad, they're dangerous and criminals, but meanwhile what I'm seeing on screen is a bunch of like colorful Cobra uniforms and stuff. There's like pink, there's like orange in there, there's some guys that are like bright red, there's some that are green, there's some that are blue, and there's like, it's like I'm watching this rainbow on screen with all these lasers of different colors shooting all over the place, and they're singing about how evil these guys are, but it's like, yeah, taste the evil Cobra rainbow, I suppose, is the point of that.